Hey, we're back. Good morning, friends and frenemies. We're back to talk injuries. We just got the live injury reports. So, here in real time, Ben, Britannica Ben, who, if you don't know, one of the sharpest minds in the business. Good morning, Ben.
Morning. Yeah.
Ben, we were just talking before we went live about Quentin Johnston being out, being ruled out for this week. So, I guess we could just start there with Quentin Johnston being out, and then we'll
Yeah.
talk some other guys.
To be honest, I that one and I feel crappy for that one. It kind of fell off my radar. I didn't realize. I mean, I guess he had been listed questionable all week. But I didn't think that he was going to miss this week. Yeah, so it's a hamstring injury.
Yep.
We've been seeing those all season, and unfortunately, this is probably going to be something that you're going to have to worry about week to week. If he's going to be able to play next week or the week after. I don't even know when the Chargers bye is currently.
I believe the bye is in like week 13
Okay, so we've got a long
or
ways for
week
that.
12. Week 12, my bad.
Yeah, so that doesn't really help us as far as helping his timeline of being able to return. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I hope that he returns next week or the week after. But it's hamstrings are one of the issues that you see a bunch of the guys on the list today with Mike Evans, of course Terry McLaurin with a quad injury, but it's just such a pain in the butt for fantasy managers.
Well, I mean, like with these guys, the guys that have soft tissue injuries, like we know that there's always that inherent return to performance too soon, and then all of a sudden like you're shelved again because you have a recurring, like it doesn't really heal. You just have days where it feels good and you can
Yeah,
fake it till you make it until you actually do some real damage. So hopefully these training staffs, obviously, calling the Chargers a smart training staff after some like the injuries that just befall them year over year
Tyrod
over
Taylor.
year. Yeah, Tyrod Taylor. Hopefully that's a different staff than what they got going on now. Hopefully. But who knows? I mean, Najee Harris never missed a game before. All of a sudden, now he's on IR with a torn Achilles. Amarion Hampton never missed a game at UNC. Coincidence? Joe Alt never missed a start at Notre Dame. Hey, I can continue.
I mean,
Like
we know other organizations that are just like that with the
yeah,
Dolphins and 49ers,
yeah.
especially the
I
49ers
mean,
that we've been talking about this season.
I don't know. I think they might have built their stadium or training facility over some indigenous burial grounds or something. Like it is wild because week one, we talked about it offline. Like we both were like, look, the Chargers look really good, man. And just it's like every single thing, like how many dominoes can fall to take stuff away from Justin Herbert before the bottom finally falls out and they become,
Yeah.
a fighting for a fledgling wild card team.
Yeah. I mean, you knew before the season that, Justin Herbert was my bring home the bacon player. And for
Yeah.
the
Oh
first
yeah.
3 weeks, that was looking really good.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
like it's not his fault that basically his team and the weapons around him are getting torn apart.
absolutely decimated and ravaged. Like that's the wildest part of all this is that he's still playing just immaculate football. But
Yeah.
again, you lose two offensive linemen. They'll be down a third offensive lineman in right tackle Lindsey Pipkins today. He was ruled out earlier in the week. No Quentin Johnston, no Amarian Hampton. Like, at what point do we have to adjust from this team is one of the best teams that we've seen to this team is just a mash unit? Uh, have you adjusted your expectations on the Chargers, or are you just kind of like, hey, we're gonna keep rolling Herbert out there until his arm falls off?
I mean, if Herbert's on your fantasy team, you keep rolling him out there. But I'm not having the same expectations that I did the first 2 to 3 weeks where I thought that they were Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, it doesn't. As I'm watching Garrett Wilson catch and fumble a pass, super cool,
Yeah, because we
super
were
cool.
waiting for more targets to come along, and then he ends up fumbling it. I don't know what to do with that game. I even took the Broncos -7.5, and I'm really eating that right now.
I mean, look, give it time. The Jets are always just one spectacular fail away from putting money in your bank account if you bet against them.
That's true.
Like that's just Hey, look, just give it time. It's like Herman Boone said, just give it time. It always works. So let's talk some. So obviously we have, we know Quentin Johnston's out. Quentin Johnston's currently what, the wide receiver 4 on the season?
I believe so.
Yeah. And you've been a big believer and a big buyer in Quentin Johnston. Yeah.
I wouldn't say a bit like I'm a believer now.
Okay.
I've had a lot of them. It was one of those things where in the 13th round in startups this offseason, it was like he had the highest upside out of anybody in that round. So then it was just like a smash every time. And so I had just a ton of shares. And it's basically just been gold ever since. But then I was asking you guys, in the group chat, in the Discord, just various people, and actually, I know we've talked about Matt Harmon before, and you said you're good with Matt Harmon, but he sees something different now with the way that Quentin Johnston's being utilized in that offense, and it's hard to ignore at this point.
Yes.
And I asked you guys, would you sell Quentin Johnston for a 26 or 27 first right now? And I think it's really up in the air. And I don't know that I would sell for a first at this point, just based off of his utilization.
Right. And that's an important thing to note, I feel like, is we're talking about, we're talking about a guy with the draft capital, the requisite size and speed, the skill set, and we're seeing those things like come to the surface and be more prevalent than his shortcomings and his failings as a complete player. Like, they've chosen to accentuate the things that he does well, and he's doing those things well. Like, I can't say, obviously, feeling like getting him, this would be a Cinderella story of epic proportions if he goes from, forgotten first round pick to top 5 wide receiver in 2025. Like, we can't plan on that, but I do think that he's here to stay, and that he's he's easily a top 15 guy.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think the ceiling is there to be in the conversation. I mean, I'm not calling him Devontae Adams. I'm not calling him Nico Collins, but those guys, Devontae Adams was a fourth year breakout, and Nico Collins was the 3rd-year breakout. Difference is, for those guys, they weren't drafted in the first round. So you didn't have the same disappointment that you did with Quentin Johnston. We didn't show up for the first 2 seasons.
Right. And that's a thing that's a thing too, is, realizing and recognizing that hurt that comes from fantasy, comes from fantasy disappointment, and moving on from that. One thing Matt Harmon did say that was true for Xavier Legette and Quentin Johnston was that, like, if they got used on the things that they were good at, with Xavier Legette, it's catch and run opportunities, it's 50-50 balls, but like just moving him around the formation. With Quentin Johnston, it was horizontal breaking routes. This is almost verbatim what he said back in like June or July, or whenever he started charting the Chargers, or he was charting Ladd McConkey, and it was a point about Quentin Johnston. It's like, hey, it could work if they do these very specific things. And it looks like Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, Khakis Harbaugh, West Coast Harbaugh, has decided to, do the things that he's good at. So hey man, like, what can we do? But I didn't intend to spend the first 8 minutes of this show talking about Quentin Johnston. Let's talk about a few more of the guys that are going to be, we know that these guys are out this week. Ricky Pearsall, Bucky Irving, Lamar Jackson, Brock Bowers, and Chuba Hubbard. Ricky Pearsall's got, what is it, a groin or is it a knee? It's a knee, right?
I believe, it's a knee. It's been a knee injury for a little bit, like just basically a knee sprain that has been bothering him. So, it's been really burning me because I bought some Ricky in the off season, and so
we all did.
He's just been shelved on my bench, and it's been a disappointment. And it's not, I mean, you call it a disappointment by injury. That's really what the situation is. The guy just hasn't seemed to be able to string along healthy weeks for a consistent period of time. And I'm hoping that changes, and I'm not a big believer in that, somebody could be injury prone. But I'm just hoping that he can take the time and get healthy, just like we talked about with Brock Bowers last week.
Yeah. That's the thing, is I think the 49ers are taking a much more cautious approach than they have in years past, as evidenced by his teammate George Kittle. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's a good point. We could just go back to, go back in the time machine to last week. But Juwan Jennings still on the fence. Do you have
Yeah.
anything as far as him this week? Do you see him? Do you think he's going to be in or out? We won't get the news on that game because it's a 3:00 game for a while. But just any leanings as far as Juwan Jennings goes.
There's no leaning. It's going to be a game time decision for that. It'll be interesting because, I think we were talking about it in the group chat at one point that Mac Jones just loves to hyper target one guy. And that one guy right now is Kendrick Bourne.
Yes.
And a little bit of Jake Tonjes. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I mean, I have Juwan Jennings starting him in some of my lineups just because I don't really have much else going on. They're ravaged by injuries.
there's not a ton going on there. We did get the news that there will be no George Kittle in week 6, so we're going to be on week 5 of his recovery from the hamstring injury, but he's supposed to be all systems go in week 7. So that's positive news. Thought we were going to get numerically a really special season from George Kittle at this point, but it could still be really special. It'll just be on like a points per game scale.
He could be the tight end 1 in points per game.
Again, yeah. That's pretty wild. I think that the offense is going to function a lot better when he comes back. I think CMC is going to become more efficient on the ground. I think the passing game, even with, we talk about Matt Jones hyper targeting, one receiver. I think that is the guy that he's probably going to hyper target if there's no Ricky Pearsall or Brandon Ayuk like in the passing game. I think they're going to funnel it through him and Christian McCaffrey once he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Nothing on. You got anything as far as Bucky goes? I think that Bucky is dealing with turf toe and a shoulder injury. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Bucks are playing it safe as they should. I think he is their star running back at this point, and they need to just give him the time to get healthy, just like we talked about with Ricky Pearsall. Just give him the time so that way he can return to being that, that hyper efficient running back that we know Bucky is.
Dude, in the meanwhile, you got Rachaad White. I wrote him up in my running back rankings this week. I mean, this is a smash spot for Rachaad White. We're going to get a 2023 vintage performance from Rachaad White today, potentially. I've got him as my running back 2024-ish. I could go higher. The Niners have allowed at least 6 receptions to the running back position 3 different times. They had Kyron Williams had 8 receptions last week. So I think this is a spot for Rachaad White to feast. Let's see. Let's move on to, the big one is we knew Lamar was out. Lamar's not going to play. And for some reason, they're rolling with Cooper Rush again. We're not going to see Lamar until week 8?
Right. Yeah. I think they have a week 7 bye or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes,
it just behooves them just to wait until after their bye to give them that extra week. And I'm also confused as to why they're rolling out Cooper Rush again when you have a seasoned veteran in Tyler Huntley that we know can at least keep an offense somewhat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's anyway, man, that's gonna piss me off. We don't have to spend too much time there. Brock Bowers probably gonna be out until like week 9 with the bone bruise, and
rightfully so.
It's a PCL injury, is that correct?
PCL sprain and a bone bruise, and I think probably what's keeping him back longer is the bone bruise.
The severity of that obviously can take some time to heal, and very, very, very obviously you can't. There's nothing you could do to speed up that process. It's just kind of, you got to hurry up and wait for your body to respond properly. Or is there more nuance to something like that?
No, a bone bruise. So you take it at almost the least severe form. The most severe form, it ends up becoming a fracture, like what happened to JJ Watt when he was with the Cardinals, when he had tibial plateau fracture. Yeah. We don't want something like that with Brock Bowers, so he needs to put it on ice. And honestly, he just needs to keep weight off of it and just rest. That's the best thing for it. And so, holding off until week 9, somewhere around there, that's really going to be the best for him to be able to return back to full health And, to me, the Raiders are just not in any shape or form to even compete in the AFC West. So you need to just sit your star. Especially
I don't know.
Geno Shit Your Pants Smith.
Man, he's been so bad. Like I thought I was big brain Brad when I picked Geno Smith in a super flex league, and now I wanted to feel something, and now I feel
the
like
answer was actually Sam Darnold. So
yeah,
who you could basically get in the same round.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much more sexy. So we believed in Geno Smith. Unfortunately, we poo-pooed on Sam Darnold, who's still playing really good football. Like I don't know what Kevin O'Connell and Kyle Shanahan did to get Sam Darnold playing like good football and not see the ghost anymore. But they need to bottle that shit up and start selling it to like former first round picks. We all know when you have to call it, like you have to refer to somebody as a former first round pick, that means that they were turbo dog shit at some point. So but I wanted to, it's been a hot button topic in the Discords in our group chat throughout the week. Malik Neighbors. So Malik Neighbors obviously goes out, I believe, in week 3 or 4 with a torn ACL. He's going to miss some time, but it's been so talk about the specific injury for Malik Neighbors. And I'm going to put up, some of the research findings that, I didn't introduce you properly, but Ben does have a doctorate of physical therapy, and it's not just some guy that I picked off the street that I met at McDonald's to talk about injuries. So I really wanted to give him an opportunity to lean in and talk about Malik Neighbors, and I'll share some of the return to play expectations as he's talking through the Malik Neighbors injury. So the floor is yours.
First thing, like Chev texted, actually commented in one of our leagues that we share in Dynasty, because he's just like, man, to wake up and argue with a rehab professional. The man that I was arguing with had no idea kind of where my background is. And so he was saying that he doesn't believe that Malik Neighbors is going to be able to return at least for like the first 4 weeks of the season. And I'm like, you have no idea what's going on here. And so let me explain the Malik Neighbors injury and why I feel pretty confident that he's going to be able to return prior to the season and hopefully be able to return by training camp next year. So as you can see, and I pulled this actually straight from an article that you can find within the NIH, or the National Institute of Health, actually co-written by a local physician that actually I see patients for and have treated patients for, Dr. Neil Bakshi, great physician. But if anybody needs the link to that, let me know. Now, I took this snippet from the article because it shows specifically for, and let me just back this up and give you guys an idea that this is regarding 50 NFL players, a sample size of 50 NFL players who are on average around the age of 25. Malik Neighbors is 22 years old, so 3 years younger than the average. Malik Neighbors is also a star, and this is also including practice squad members, career backups. I mean, potential NFL starters, but we're talking about, and I even mentioned in the chat, a 2024 number 6 overall pick that broke the rookie wide receiver reception record. So this is a much different player when we're talking about these averages. And then when you look there, you can see that just a straight ACL/MCL injury with the timeline. And I believe it says 305 days. Maybe that's not the exact same one that I had pulled. Oh, wait, nope, it is. Somewhere, I think maybe even lower, right? Yep. So basically 305 days on average, with around, roughly 60 days standard deviation after or before, right? So we're talking basically a 9 to 12 month timeline return. He injured this week 4, I want to say, right?
Yes.
And so the timeline basically puts it around July if he was to return on that 10-month mark. And so even if he pushes it out to that full year, which a lot of physicians for somebody who is not an athlete will recommend that they feel 100% to be able to return to sport, that's pushing it basically right around week 1. And so I have no concern with Malik Neighbors in regards to his return to sport. Now, the question that ends up popping up is, will he return to the previous level of performance? And I think you have to just fill in the blanks on what you believe, right? Because, again, these return to play or return to performance is regarding all different athletes from all different walks of life in the NFL. But one thing that was interesting, and I think a lot of people might argue back on, is they ended up finding out that he did injure his lateral meniscus in the injury.
Mm-hmm.
And the physicians basically had stated that had performed the surgery. They were able to have successful ACL reconstruction. And even if there was a debridement or a cleanup of the lateral meniscus, it does not affect the timeline. So I'm feeling pretty confident that Malik Neighbors will be full go by week 1. Now, I will be eating crow if that's not the case, but you got to take risks in dynasty fantasy football and redraft, right? It's just what we naturally do. And we're talking about a superstar that you might be able to get a discount right now in dynasty trades and possibly by your redraft trades next year.
That's an important point. And I mean, for any sort of redraft, obviously that's not going to benefit you. But from a dynasty perspective, there's very little concern for his long-term outlook. Absolutely. In terms of him, returning to being the 170 target record holding reception leader for rookies. It's really unfortunate, but I feel like now with people like yourself and, other guys that are active in the space passing along this information, it can help you inform and make better educated decisions as far as your trade processes. I added too many S's in there at the end, but as far as your trade processes go and being able to take advantage of an injury discount with very little concern, because that was the reason he got traded, is because the guy who traded him was afraid that he was going to not be able to return to the level of performance that he was at prior to the injury. And it's 2025. This isn't 1997 where an ACL is basically, they basically take you behind the clinic and shoot you when you have an ACL. So these people acting like that, as somebody who's torn their ACL, done all the stuff and gone back and not thought about the fact that I've torn my ACL. It seems ridiculous when people are like, oh, his career is going to be over. He'll never be the same.
Chef, when did you tear it, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
I was 21 going on 22 years old.
So this is a little less than 20 years ago, right? Not to give your age away.
No, I'm 40. It's not. Yes, it was 2000. It was April 5th, 2007. Yeah.
So all medical advances have jumped even then, since basically a decade and a half or more. And, this is one of the most straightforward reconstruction surgeries when there's no other concerns involved. The issue, and that article brings it up, is when you're talking about PCL and LCL involvement. And actually, I even texted you separately about something I found in that timeline that I even sent you in regards to a tidbit about Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah.
What was interesting was that it had an average of 609 days of return to play. That's almost 2 years. That's basic. That's also the Tank Dell injury, right? So, and we basically are in the same spot with Tank Dell as we were before, where we have no idea when or if he's going to return to the NFL. I hope so, but that's the level of ACL is the most minimal in regards to tearing of ligaments and worrying about returning to play.
Right. It was such an issue that people, and shout out to James Andrews, because he was kind of the guy that got the golden trophy for being the guy who, was at the forefront of ACL surgery and recovery when, he was a surgeon for Adrian Peterson, when Adrian Peterson basically came back from several multi-ligament tears to, his NFL he won MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of the point where people stopped being like, oh, well, it's an ACL injury. His career is over. Oh, it's an ACL injury. Let's just give him some time to rehab. And I think with the multi-ligament thing, just to with the multi-ligaments and the dislocation, obviously that takes a little bit longer. That's actually more of the scope of what like I dealt with. So it takes a long time, one, to get everything back, like just firing again. And to go back to NFL performance, it takes a long time because you have to rebuild that athlete's confidence in their ability to perform after something like that happens. Because it's like, it's always a freak thing. Like he caught a pass, he went out of bounds, guy landed wrong. Now all of a sudden your legs pointed the wrong way. Like that takes a long time to get over mentally. Physically, you can do whatever you want. But mentally, it's the hurdles that I feel like and you could tell me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like that's the kind of hurdle like they have to get back into the rhythm of putting that type of work in and seeing how the knee responds. And there's a lot more trial and error because these dudes are worth, at this point, Tyreek Hill's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And who knows the dollar amount that he's actually worth to the Miami Dolphins franchise. And to a lesser extent, Tank Dell. So do you want to elaborate on any of that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the mental piece of it is extremely important, and it's very important not only intrinsically in the athlete, probably the most important right there, but obviously the rehab professionals that are extrinsically or externally giving them feedback on and really helping provide them the guidance to be able to return, extremely important. And so, I don't like to just drop off an athlete like that after, like I might do for a layperson after 4 6 months at the most. But this is somebody who's probably done with maybe outpatient physical therapy after about 7 to maybe at most 9 months. But that after that, they are working with trainers, and these guys are also gifted the opportunity to be provided that training staff all the time, year round, right? And so they have some of the best medical opportunity to be able to return. It just depends on their mindset and how they perceive they're going to be able to return and play. Because if they have any forms of doubt or any concerns in their return, they could possibly re-tear. And it's usually not re-tearing that same side. It's usually re-tearing the other side. And that's also a big, big portion of rehab, is making sure that we're strengthening bilaterally or both sides of the body.
Yes.
Because it has been done before many a time where if it's not handled correctly, that athlete goes to the same problem again. And that's not to say, because Jonathan Brooks dealt with the exact same ACL tear that he had a year prior when he tore it jumping onto the Panthers football field last season.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. Like it's lightning striking twice in an event like that, because normally, when you rehab the torn ACL side, like that side gets stronger, and they do a great job of not allowing a lot of bilateral deficit that you just referred to. That meaning like one side is much stronger than the other. Like for the Ben just explained it way better than I'm going to try waste time trying to explain it. So like it's rare, very rare that you tear the exact same thing over again when it's like when you've gone through and done all and they don't let you skip paces with your rehab in the NFL because it's their job to get you back on the field, and you will lose said job if player does not get back on the field. But
no,
yeah,
I mean, and it's public information too, that like it's I don't know, maybe it's like completely public, but beat reporters and other sources get that information. I mean, there was a time where Jameson Williams was kind of in the doghouse with Dan Campbell because he wasn't doing his rehab the way that he should. And that information was getting out to, local news stations, that they were reporting that Jameson Williams was kind of in trouble with the team. Of course, you and I have talked about it at nauseum that like he has made a full career turnaround in regards to his attitude on the field and the way that he handles his play. But yeah, it's very important that these players stick by the book when it comes to rehab.
absolutely. Like I don't think that people realize, like, again, this is not, hey, I turned my ankle, I'm going to go to the trainer. Like, it's like, hey, we have a team of people assigned to you to make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to do, because they lose their jobs if you don't.
Right.
Is there anybody else you wanted to hit on before we get out of here?
Oh, not really. I mean, Chev, I have time, so I know. you might want to, but like my wife is literally at lunch and my kids are taking a nap. So if we want to talk any like start sit or anything like that, I don't know if anybody had any questions so far.
Well, no, there have been. I guess everybody's still asleep. That's why I was like, hey, we got a free space to get out of here.
Yeah,
But
no,
before,
I mean, I'm good, man, if you want to.
well, no, actually, I had planned on doing something with my kid real quick before
Okay.
we go.
Yeah.
But before we
Also got
do
to set
that,
lunch.
I do need to mention that this show is sponsored by ProfitX. ProfitX is the number one peer-to-peer sports prediction market in the entire universe. So it looks and feels just like a sports book, just with way better odds. So sign up for ProfitX today using promo code FFD and earn up to $200 back in your first 30 days of playing. The more you play, the more they pay. So sign up for ProfitX using promo code FFD. And today, my favorite play is going to be Mr. Power Tools himself, Mr. the mayor of the cement aisle. I'm going Quinshon Judkins over 78.5 yards rushing. He should have had over 120 yards and a touchdown, but it was called back. But today, against the Steel Pillow defense, I believe Quinshon Judkins goes over this number of 78.5. So again, you can get these odds on ProfitX. So sign up today using promo code FFD. Now, Ben, tell the people where they can find you, brother.
Yes, I mean, I think the main place where you want to connect with me, where I can help you get separated into our various social spaces, is on X, Twitter. You can follow me, Dynasty Big Mac FF. I run the Dynasty Gambit, and we have a free Discord where we like to share ball knowledge, and we love to connect with our Discord members as well as in the other servers. So please feel free to connect out to me. And again, if you need more knowledge on any medical information, I have some of these various bits of knowledge and other articles that I can share with you guys. Always feel free to ask me questions.
Hey, listen, I bug you about this stuff all the time. That's why this show happened, because I was like, hey, we need to, like, people need to talk about this. So it was a slow morning, but that's to be expected. Maybe people are, not realize, maybe they're just tapped into the game, and that's something that we have to be more cognizant of, because there's going to be morning games now. But at any rate, hey, if you're here or if you're watching this later on, thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Injuries Show, and we'll talk to you soon. So, till next time.
See you guys.